She's small but mighty, and she's here in studio today.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Pointe with Kristyn Burtt, presented by Popcorn Talk and Dance Network. And if you take a look over to my left, you're going to notice that this is not Dancing with the Stars pro Gleb Savchenko. Not at all. He will be back on December 5th at our show, but I want to let you guys know that we have someone even better. I love this today because we have got season 12's Alexia Meyer. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
And we should say So You Think You Can Dance, because obviously not not Dancing with the Stars season 12. So great having you here. I was just, we were talking about this. I have a lot of photos of you. I've seen you a lot over the past couple years.
You've seen me grow up.
I know, you were a baby when you came over here.
Still am, a little short, but...
I know, I'm a shorty too. I was like, we're both sitting on boosters.
And I was still kind of short for it, but it's okay.
All right, well, here on To The Point, we always like to just get everyone's dance story, and I actually have a lot of questions for you because I was like, I didn't know that about her. I didn't know that about her. So I'm actually kind of excited.
Yay.
And like everyone, and we were joking before the show started, I was literally like, everyone's from Utah or Colorado or Miami for dancing. And of course, you are a Utah baby.
Yes, I am. Born and raised.
Yes, and you were one of those, and I've been encountering this a lot. You were one of those that started dance very young. I've been encountering a lot of people that start at 12, at 24, at 18, and I'm like, how is it that you pick it up so late? But you were in those little toddler classes.
Yes, I started when I was little. I started when I was 3 years old, so I probably could barely walk, but I was in the dance class. We had a dance class that was for little kids that they got to dress up as a fairy tale princess. So we would read a fairy tale story, and then we'd dress up like that princess that we read about, and then we'd dance and wave our wands around. And I fell in love with it when I was that age, and I wanted to do it ever since.
That's amazing. At what age did you really start taking it seriously? Because I know you were a competition kid, so.
I think probably when I was around 11, 12-ish is when I really started to feel like this was my thing. I had a talent for it, and I could take it further than just the competition stage. That's where I really started to decide that, I wanted to do this after, I was living at home.
How, I know, were you at the same studio all the time? Because I know there's a lot of studios in Utah. There's a lot of really good ones. Did you start at the smaller studio and move to a competition studio?
No, I started at the same studio. So they're really my family, They've known me since I was 3. They've watched me through my whole journey as a dancer, and I still go back and visit them. It's the dance club in Orem, Utah, and they're my family.
That's amazing. Now, who else went to the dance club? Because there always seems to be little factions and divisions.
Yes.
Who else were you there with?
Allison Holker,
of course,
went to the dance club. Molly Gray went to the dance club. Randy Lynn went to the dance club. Those are a few that you'd probably know.
Great dancers.
Yes, and so it's fun to see what they've done, and that they've set examples for me, and how I can follow their path in certain ways and not in others.
Yeah, and Molly Gray, wow. I mean, she's every acting role. I always see the Hollywood Reporter, and she's always announced in another show or series or movie. It's really incredible. And we've had a lot of dancers also come across this doing the Olympics. So the 2002 Olympics obviously were in Salt Lake, and the ceremonies, I know that Kenny Ortega did it. So you participated? Did you do both opening and closing, or just one of them?
So I did the closing ceremonies, the closing medal ceremonies each night. So I was
every single night?
Every night, yeah, I did it. It was a blast. If you can find footage, it's kind of hard to find actually online, but it was the Hoberman Curtain that opened every night before they did the award ceremonies. And the concept of it all was from a little child to a grown athlete. And I was the littlest of the childs, So I was the one that started at the very bottom of the Hoberman Curtain and was the one that initiated the curtain to be opened.
That's so cool. And if I remember correctly, the medal ceremonies were done kind of in a downtown location. They weren't done at the venues. Is that correct? Okay, yeah. So I was trying to remember, because certain ones they do in the halls, but I know most of the ceremonies were done. So you were busy during those 2 weeks of the Olympics.
Yeah, it was so fun, and it was such a little age, so it was so much to take in, but It was a blast.
How old were you when the 2002? You must have been tiny.
I mean, I don't remember how old I was, but I remember like for Christmas that year I got like a handy dandy notebook from like Blue's Clues, and that's like what I loved.
tiny.
So I was teeny tiny.
You were so tiny. Oh my gosh. Do you remember who choreographed your segment for that? Because I know Kenny Ortega did like the opening closing ceremonies, but
I honestly I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. Yeah, I was so little.
Yeah.
So little.
I know your mom would probably, we'd have to call on your mom and be like,
phone a friend, Mom, can you tell me? Yeah.
Tell us who did that. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, and I'm a little jealous, you got to do the Radio City Christmas Spectacular.
Yes.
And you played Clara.
Yes. Oh, that was a dream come true. I did that, I think, in 2007 or 2008. I can't remember exactly. But, yeah, I auditioned for that while I was at a Nationals in New York City. And I was able to play the role of Clara in Nashville, which a Tennessee Christmas is, like, magical in of itself. And the best part about the Nashville show is that the role of Clara gets to play other parts throughout the show.
Oh, really?
So I didn't just play Clara. I was, the little girl in the Christmas scene, and I was in the Carol of the Bells scene, and I was in the Nativity scene. So it was just so fun for me. And at that age, I fell in love with, everybody wants to grow up to be a Rockette.
Yes.
But at being
Height-wise,
5'1", that was never really a dream of mine. I kind of cross it off the list.
I have 2 more inches on you, and I still don't even cut it for Rockette. So
Right. So that was when I fell in love with the ensemble and for just the theatrical world of all of that.
It is, if you have not seen the Radio City Christmas Spectacular, whether it's the touring company or whether it's the New York company, it is probably one of the most spectacular things, literally spectacular, you'll ever see, though.
It's so fun.
And if that doesn't get you into the spirit of Christmas, whether you celebrate or not, I don't know.
Right.
Because it's really for everyone. There's a little bit of everything. And
right.
Yeah, I love it.
And it was at the Grand Old Opry. The funny thing is, I remember a year before I was traveling with the dance convention, and I was with one of my biggest mentors, Joey Dowling, and we had like a little bit of time off, and we like went to the mall nearby, and we saw the Grand Old Opry, and she was like, "That's where the Rockettes perform." And then a year later, I found myself in that place, and it was a great blessing,
How long was the run? Do you remember? Were you there for like 6 weeks or something?
It was about 2 months. From with like rehearsals and finishing.
And did you have were you dual cast? Did you play opposite, like another girl did the role?
Yeah, there was two Claras, me and this other girl. So we got to do every other show.
And I have to ask, because I always thought this was really cool. I was like, these girls get to do it on Pointe, because a lot of times Claras are usually, it's just a ballet slipper. Yeah, you're not on Pointe. And I was like, this is so cool. Did you get to do it on Pointe?
Yes, I did it on Pointe.
See, I was like, when I read that, I was like, oh, man.
Yes.
This is like my dream. Of course, and now I need to go back a gazillion years. But I was like, what? It's such a cool role.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, you want to do it with the ballet company, and you want to do it in the Radio City show. So that's amazing.
It was so fun.
Yeah, and did your mom live with you? Because obviously...
Yes. So my mom, she lived with me for that time, and I have younger siblings, so like my whole family stepped up to the plate so she could come. And I did school remotely online and was able to keep up with my current classes that I was in. And yeah, it was so fun.
That's so fun. What a great memory. That's such a great memory. How about when it comes to competitions? I know that you were kind of the competition all the way through. Were there certain competitions that you did, certain circuits your dance club followed?
Yeah, so I am a born and raised NYCDA kid, New York City Dance Alliance. I did that since I was probably 8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've grown up doing it. I think this coming year at Nationals will be like my 13th or 14th in a row time going to their Nationals, because now I am an employed teacher and assistant for the company.
And you were just with them in Houston?
Yes, and I was just with them in Houston, and they're coming to LA this weekend, so I'll be with them in LA.
Oh, great.
Here, and yeah, I grew up competing, and that was where a lot of my training was built upon as well. And aside from my studio was, all of those other faculty members really took me in and helped me become the dancer that I am.
Who were the people that you looked up to that you trained with over the years?
Yeah, so many, but particularly with that company.
Yeah.
Well, Joey Dowling.
Yep.
her mom owns my studio, so that's partially why there's such a strong connection
Oh, that
there.
makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
And then Tony Testa.
So good.
He is so talented, and I've loved, since I've moved here to LA, that relationship has just become stronger.
Fantastic.
And yeah, even like tap. Like I never thought I was a tapper, but my senior year I was able to place and win with NYCDA, and so I was able to tour with them more directly. And so I was assisting in the tap classes, and like with Jared Grimes and Chloe Arnold, and
Chloe,
she's the best.
Chloe.
She's the best. And so that's really when I really learned how to tap. Was I kind of was forced to, because I was assisting tap classes, but it helped me, and now I can say that I'm a tapper.
Oh, that's great. We didn't get to see any of that on So You.
I know, no tapping.
I also found out, just snooping around online, you're smarty pants, like valedictorian. High five. I was valedictorian too.
Yes, that's awesome.
I love school. I love to study.
Yes.
Are you the same?
Yes, I
can see it in your
love
personality.
it. Yeah.
Actually, there's certain, I don't know what it is, but I can tell when certain people like
just
school,
love learning,
like to study, like to do research, and
I'm the nerd that likes the word games and all of that. Yes.
yeah,
yes.
me too. That's funny. And this is what I think is interesting. And there's always this dilemma when you are a dancer, and you probably know what question's coming next. Do I go to college, or do I go straight to New York or LA or take a job and dance and things like that? You went to Pace University, and I went to NYU for School of the Arts for dance. And it's really a struggle to decide. And I think it's even harder when you like school and you're good at school. Like, if I was bad at school, it would have been a really easy choice, I think, for me. How about you? Did you and your family kind of have you have to go to school, or was there a choice presented?
It was all me choosing. My family was really awesome in that they said that they would support me in whatever I chose to do. And it's kind of funny as I look on my dance career and everything that I've done. It's all been unplanned, which of course it always ends up to be. But for the longest time, I thought I was always going to live in New York, and here I am now living in LA.
Right.
But at the time, my goal and my dream was to live in New York, and but I loved the commercial world as well. And Pace University offers a commercial dance program. And so that was my way to be in New York and be part of the commercial world and study and learn all of those things. And so that was what I chose to do. And it was a dream. I went to school for 2 years, and that's when So You Think You Can Dance came to New York and had their auditions, and then from there all of So You Think stuff happened.
Everything changed. I have to say that having a commercial dance major at a university is very unusual.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised. I didn't know it exists. Is it a newer major, do you know, or have they had it for a long time?
It's probably now in its 7th or 8th year.
Okay,
but
so
it's still fairly new, yeah.
Still fairly, but I love that they offer that, honestly. Yeah. And I think that the only school that's probably comparable now, and they just started up a couple of years ago, is USC's new Kaufman School.
Exactly.
And let me tell you guys, if you are looking at dance colleges, look at USC. Their facility and the
beautiful
opportunities. They had freshmen going to Japan. Another group went to India. They performed at halftime with
so cool.
It's so cool. And they gave me a tour last fall when they opened up the new facility, and I was like, I know I went to Tisch, and I know that that's a very good school at NYU, and I was like, I'm
look
so
at this.
jealous.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
It's unbelievable. It's very expensive, so scholarship, that's why you study.
Yeah, totally.
That's so interesting, though, that you did go to Pace. What did you experience in New York? Because I think what people don't understand is, when you go to a New York City school, the city is your campus. How was that for you?
It was awesome. The energy in New York is very different in LA, and I've learned to love both, but they are so different. But especially with the NYCDA dance competition that I've been a part of, all of those connections, they're based out of New York City. So I was able to branch and connect my college connections and my competition connections, and you have Broadway Dance Center to take classes from, and places in New Jersey to go and perform at or to teach, and there's just a lot of opportunities in a different way, but similarly to here in Los Angeles.
So when you decided to audition for So You Think, and obviously, actually, let's talk about your audition before I even jump ahead, because I was like, let's talk about that, because I watched that again and I was like, huh. It's not really how I remembered it. You had a great audition, but I felt like Paula Abdul was a little weirdly lukewarm.
Yeah, she was a little hard on me.
She was, and I understand she's a petite dancer herself. But I was a little worried that she was going to let you through, even though, hello, in 2017, I know she let you through. So,
Yeah.
In that moment, how were you feeling? Were you a little worried when Paula started going, well?
I mean, yeah. Anytime you hear like hesitation, it's makes you nervous. But I think from that feedback, and after I made it through to Vegas week, knowing that I was going to Vegas week, it made me prepare even more and like get ready for more, because rather than having the confidence of they loved me in my audition, I'm gonna do great. It was like, okay, I'm kind of like on the line here. I need to really step it up for Vegas.
And Nigel and Jason Derulo were like, yes, they
Yeah.
were. And
Yes.
Paula was getting booed in the background. So you guys need to go back and watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's on like, you have to hunt for just a little bit. It's on, like, I think a German girl has it on her channel or something. And so it was really interesting. And the audience loved it too. So it was one of those. And Jason was like, no, you're through. And Nigel's like, I don't want to hear Paula's answer. You're through. When you went to Vegas, and people say that this was the most stressful week of their life, how was it for you?
I had heard how hard Vegas week was.
Yes.
So I kind of knew going into that this was going to be really hard. And I had an audition for So You Think before. So I didn't really know what I was getting into and how hard it was. And yeah, like everybody says, it's so hard. But I tried to take it a day at a time and just present my best and know that however far I get, it's better than where I was before, because I hadn't even been there yet.
Did you at a certain point go, I think I have this, like by day 3 or something, where you're like, I'm at least going to make it to Green Mile or anything? Did you have that moment at all?
I would say no. I would say each time it was just like, I'm going to do my best. And I really had to talk myself up. And, it's all about the psychology of it. And that's kind of what Vegas week is, who's strong mentally, not just as a dancer, but who's strong mentally and how they can get through it.
And this was the experimental season of stage versus street.
It was.
And, here's the funny thing. It's like when you're auditioning in Vegas, you kind of have to start thinking, like, there's only 10 spots for us. Where I think when you have a top 20, there'll be like 3 maybe street dancers, and the rest are probably like contemporary jazz or something else like that ballroom we'll throw in there.
Right.
So
it made the selection a lot smaller, for sure.
It did. And so in many ways, I always think like anyone that made that season should feel really proud, because it wasn't easy.
Yeah, it was hard. So yeah, it was really hard. It was fun to see how, because it was separated, there was more cheering on. Like, because we were never in the same room at the same time, the street people and the stage people.
Oh, interesting.
Because we weren't really competing with each other at that point, because they were just trying to find the top 10 of each, and then we'd start competing against each other. So it's kind of fun to feel the camaraderie of us, like as we're going from one room to the next, and you're passing all the street people like, come on, you can do it,
You got this.
So that was fun.
Do you have any memories of like people that wound up in the top 20 with you from Vegas week, where you're like, oh, I don't know who that girl is, but she's really good, or that guy, he's amazing?
I mean, I knew Haley Payne from growing up. She's from Utah, but we lived a couple hours apart. And so we just knew of each other at competitions. And so that was like where our bond started, where that friendship really developed, was because we saw each other in Vegas week. And yeah, and then there were other people that you were so shocked and surprised that they didn't make it on the show, that you're like, they were phenomenal. And then you look at yourself and you're like, how did I make it? And they didn't, but that's how it goes.
Yeah. And I remember, this is actually a funny story. I think I spoiled part of the top 20 at some point. Someone had given me a list. I'll admit it now. It doesn't matter, because the season's already over. And Derek, who was in team stage, he blocked me on Twitter.
Oh, of course he did.
And because he was so paranoid that he was going to get kicked off the show. Right. And I will tell you, from season 12, nobody from the cast gave me the list. So that is season 11, someone indirectly from the cast gave me the list. So I'm happy. I'm always happy to say that. But it was really funny. And Derek slid into my DMs, I don't know, like earlier this year, and he was like, I was so nervous. I'm sorry I blocked you. I I was like, it's okay. It's like, don't worry. No one from the cast gave me the info. And
Yeah, we were all scared. We were like, we just want to make it to the show.
I know. And I think, Jeff Thacker is like, don't reveal the information.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were the year, if I caused, there was one speech, and I don't know if it was season 11 or 12, like, who gave the list? And they all got in trouble. Because of me. But Jeff Thacker is great. So it's just funny but I was like, I still have those days of like, I remember when Derek blocked me. I'm like, I can't see his tweets anymore. So did you know that when you got on the show, because obviously it's summer, you're on summer break from school, did you know that you're probably gonna, if you make it to top 10 or even top 14, you're not going back to college?
Well, how the show went, while I was on the show, my semester of school was going on, so I already had to put a pause on school for my first semester.
Oh, you did? Mm-hmm. Did you guys start in? Sometimes
it was the
April or May.
It was the beginning. It was like right towards the end of the show was the beginning of my semester.
So in September.
So, yes.
That's right. Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so there was constant communication between my school and I of just like, okay, I might be getting on the might be doing the tour. I don't know. And then I really wanted to make the tour. Like that was, obviously everybody as a contestant on the show wants to win, but aside from that, I just wanted to make it to tour. I wanted to perform every night like they do on tour. And fortunately, I was able to. And there was communication with the school, and I just said, I made the tour, and now I'm going to have to take another semester off. And so it was just constant communication with school.
Yeah, and that's a hard decision too, because you did not go back after you finished tour.
I didn't, no.
Do you regret that, or are you okay with it? Where are you at with that?
I feel good about it. Aside from majoring in commercial dance, I have wanted to go into sports psychology, and PACE doesn't offer that program that I'm specifically looking for. And so from educational wise, it wasn't where I wanted to end. Mm-hmm. And so through all the connections I made with So You Think You Can Dance, I decided to move to Los Angeles and have since then done school online so I can start and hopefully finish that degree.
It'll happen. It's all good. That's great though. Now I heard, and actually your interest in sports psychology came as a kid, didn't it?
Yeah.
Tell this story, because I think this is really interesting.
I love this. So starting, like we talked about, I was a comp kid growing up. And I was a stressed out comp kid. I would get so nervous before I competed. We joke about it now, but I would cry before I performed. I would cry after I performed, no matter how well I did or didn't do.
Stress,
I would just cry. But I loved it, and it was just because I wanted and I expected so much out of myself. And
you were a perfectionist because you're a little type A, because you're valedictorian. I know you, Alexa.
Yeah, you get it. You get it.
I do.
And I think a lot of dancers are like that, because that's part of what dance is constantly perfecting yourself. And so my studio brought in a sports psychologist named Justin Sua. He now works for the Boston Red Sox, and he's gone on to do some really awesome things. And he met with our team. And my studio was like, we have a girl that maybe should meet with you individually. And so I met with him several times before leading up to nationals. And that year I didn't win at nationals, but I kept in touch with him and kept working with him. And then the following year, I was able to win at nationals. And I think part of it was my training improving, but I think also a big part of it was that time at nationals I really had a better mindset going into it.
The mental game is really
mental game. And
big deal.
It plays now here in the industry as a working dancer. I have to remind myself those things that I've learned from him, and as I'm studying sports psychology and stuff, that's what I want to after I'm quote done being a performer on the stage. I want to teach dance both physically and mentally.
I love that, because I think a lot of people need it, and a lot of people need it in this town. And it's interesting that and I've said this over and over on the show, but I get so many people that sit in this chair and they're like, when I was on So You Think You Can Dance, I wasn't myself. I was stressed out. I was tired.
Yeah.
People didn't know the type of dancer, what I was capable of, because I just was trying to figure it all out. Yeah. And it really is that mental aspect. What did you learn from your sports psychologist that you've just taken away just throw out like a couple great tips that you got from him.
There's so much, but I guess part of it would, like, there's certain things he taught, like pressure is a privilege. You know, you never, pressure is something that you should be grateful for, and, you know, those are opportunities for you to grow. We talk about not having any mental junk food.
I like this. Mental junk food.
No mental junk food. And to avoid the mental junk food, you have individual power statements of positivity that you know, in a snap of a finger, you can rely on.
Some mantras.
You know,
and
yeah,
things like
some
that.
mantras that as soon as those, and I do it now, you know, you go into an audition and as soon as you have to do it and you, like, you're in that group of 3 and you start getting stressed and you start blurring and you're like, what's the combo? How does it even start? You know, you rely on those mantras that, like, help you, like, get back in your zone. And then we practice, like, imagery of, like, I used to stress about my turns when I was growing up, a comp kid, and, like, if I would fall out of them or hop. And he would have me practice imagining myself doing them perfectly. And for a while, that was really hard. I would imagine myself messing up.
And you're like, I gotta stop that. I'm sabotaging myself.
Yeah. So just things like that I've learned through him. And he has a podcast that now I, like, keep up with him. And he's awesome.
Oh, that's great. I love to hear that because I've heard a lot of Olympians have used, obviously, sports psychologists. And Nancy Kerrigan, I remember that she was having meltdowns. And she had to utilize one. And she used to do that, like, practicing the perfect routine in my head so that you go in the ice and...
Yeah.
Way to go. So I think that's really fascinating. I love that it worked for you too.
Yeah.
So let's get back to So You Think a little bit because it was an unusual season. We haven't gone back to this format.
Nope, I have not.
And do you feel, I mean, obviously it is such a privilege to be on the show, and I tell you, I mean, I love just being backstage at that show and covering it. It makes me happy. I feel like I'm at summer camp. I really do. It is like I call it my happy bubble. And like that little girl emoji. But it is one of those things that I'm like, do you guys in season 12 feel a little bit like, oh, I wish we had the traditional format? Or are you just like, I don't care, I was on the show?
I think there's a both.
A little.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm so grateful that I was even able to have the chance to be on the show and work with all of those choreographers. But I do think at times that the format wasn't in our favor, you know. Maybe the strongest dancers were all on street, or maybe they were all on stage, but the way they eliminated them, it had to be one off of each side, you know. And so I don't think that was always fair. And
you were in that dreaded, like, 4 people eliminated. You're like,
yes,
bye.
Yes.
I was like, ugh. I remember that. I just was like, no. And, so
it was hard. And for me, that came, I would say one of my strongest routines was my hip hop with Neptune. And
Dave Scott.
The Dave Scott routine.
Dave Scott with the wall, you guys. If you have not seen this one, it is so good.
And it was my favorite one. And the week I was eliminated was the week right after that. So it's like, you know, you just, I think it was just because they had to narrow it up, you know, evenly.
Yeah. And if you guys haven't seen that Dave Scott routine, in fact, we had Dave Scott in that season, too, to talk about it. And he was like, those two just killed it. You know, he's like, pow, bam, boom. And that's totally Dave Scott. And in a nutshell. But, you know, He was like, you guys did not get the wall until the last minute. Nope. And to be able, I mean, again, you're tiny and you have to grab a wall that is way higher than you. I mean, there were a lot of challenges with that.
Yeah, we even added more choreo, like wall choreo and tricks, like the day before. So like the jump on the wall and the swinging on the wall wasn't in the choreo till the day before, till we had the wall. And yeah, there were times when we ran through the dance and those things didn't happen. And so it's a little like crossing your fingers when the camera's rolling and you have to do it for live television. But it was such a fun process to like have to explore those weird, quirky, like crazy characters. I had never played a role like that. And it was fun to have Dave and Neptune really pull that out of me.
Dave Scott is such a creative genius. What goes on here is just always. I just recently saw he choreographed Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat up in Thousand Oaks, and I went and saw it. And
fun.
Let me tell you, like he did not do. Obviously, he did a hip hop version of it, and I was like, "That's Dave Scott. That's a Dave."
Right.
And there was a lot of humor in his movement that I was like, God, that's why I love Dave.
Yeah.
There's always like an underlying sense of like stuff that's simmering underneath.
And
that's awesome.
his rehearsals were just fun. Other ones, they ended up being great, but they were stressful. But these rehearsals, like, we were working hard, but we were laughing, we were having fun, and, that's, I think, partially why it turned out to be such a great piece, was because the stress wasn't there as much.
And you guys need that. Like, you guys need that atmosphere of that lightness, because when you start going, like, we've got 4 routines this week. And I gotta figure this all out.
You have to find it.
We do have to talk about this routine because, and I know we've talked about it before, but sexy fish will never die. And we do have a sexy fish photo. I labeled it as such.
Oh, yes.
And I went back and watched it today because I hadn't seen it in a while. And if I recall, because this was a burlesque piece, this was the first time the choreographers, it was Tracy Phillips and Dominic Carbone, I think, who did it. First time that they were on the show. And of course, everyone wants to represent well. Yeah. There were set pieces that, if you saw their original piece, that you guys did not get. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, there was additional props and stuff that they were trying to get to pull together. But yeah, we didn't end up using them.
And, if I went back and looked at it, and I'm like, if there had just been, like, some set pieces,
I think the concept was abstract, obviously, being a sexy fish. You don't really picture
it's
that.
Very abstract.
And I think, excuse me.
Sorry, I know. We're sitting in the coffee in the studio. Sorry.
But I think it was such an abstract idea that if it were presented with more props and I don't know exactly how
maybe. I just think
I think it was just a little out of context and it wasn't read as well as it could have been, but I still think it was a great idea. It just needed to be louder.
Louder's a good, and you guys nailed it. I mean, like, the performance was there. You guys were, I mean, at the beginning, like, there's a lot of great elements to it, and I was like, I feel like because they hadn't brought in a couple of, like, the pieces just to create the scene to it, it missed the mark. And it's unfortunate because I feel like it didn't serve the choreographers, and then in turn it doesn't serve you guys. And I know that Nigel was kind of lukewarm on the whole thing, and that's never what you want on the show. Yeah. So it's like so frustrating.
Well, and to be honest, I didn't know who the choreographers were before I had worked with them, but obviously after I found out that I was working with them, and since then I've like looked them up, and
their stuff is fantastic.
Their stuff is great, so it has nothing to reflect on them or anything. It just was a concept that just needed to be explored a little bit more on that stage. Yeah,
and that's what I always feel bad, because when it's your first time there, you want to have that good outing, and when you don't, oftentimes you don't get the opportunity to return. So, and Spencer Liff had been here, and he said, he talked about his first outing was very, very bad on the show, and he like begged Jeff Thacker.
He's like, please
just give me one more chance. And he's like, I will show it to you. But a lot of people don't.
It's hard. It's
so hard. The choreographers are under the same amount of pressure that you guys are, because they don't want to look bad. They don't want you to look bad.
And the choreographers that keep coming back keep having experience of what works and what doesn't work,
Yep,
so
and they know. And again, they get different levels of, especially stage versus street. You're throwing a few street people into a Broadway number. Spencer was like,
He's like, what do I do? Exactly.
So you did get to go on tour, which is the great news. And I got to see you in Columbus, Ohio. We had some photos from there. I think that's the group meet and greet way back in the day. We had just Dance Network happened to be in Columbus, Ohio, covering Ohio Star Ball, which is this week. We were just saying that, but it was really fun seeing you guys and seeing the show. And what are your best memories of tour? Because everyone says it's the best time ever.
It is. It's so fun. I mean, outside of the dancing, just exploring all of the different cities and going and being with your best friends at that point, going and exploring. But honestly, being able to perform on a stage where it's just you and dancers. Like, performing for an artist is awesome, but this show is built for the dancers, and that is incredible. And just building those relationships with the dancers. I was close to them while on the show, but I mean, you have to get close to them while on the tour. And just waking up in the morning, and Haley and I were buddies.
I was going to say, who was your roommate? I thought it must have been Haley.
We actually weren't roommates, like in the where we stayed at the hotel, but we practically were, because we were hip to hip. We went everywhere together, and So
That's
fun.
so great. How was your home show? Because those are always the best when you get to go home and perform for everyone.
The home show, I was so tired after because
You're like, I'm gonna dance.
Yeah, you have
dance."
so much energy, and especially because both Haley and I are from Utah, and so we had doubled the support of
So
just
awesome.
family and friends all there, and yeah, it was a blast. I remember like the whole. All of us were like flashing Utah signs like throughout the show, just like represent, and it was so fun.
And I know you did. Whitney Carson and Lindsay Arnold did a Born and Raised in
Yes,
Utah show
yeah.
that you performed in as well. Did you not?
Yes.
Was Haley there? Also?
Haley was there, and
I
we
love
performed a duet together. We said it was our duet that we never got on the show.
I know. I can't believe they didn't
I know.
automatically like plan that one.
I know. We did the trio with the New Dorp, New York with Marissa, but we got our duet on with the Born and Raised. It was so
I
fun.
love that. That's gonna be. I mean, this is what I joke all the time. I'm like, dancers are only from Utah, Miami,
I know.
Colorado. But I do joke. But I mean, what a great representation for all of you guys coming off of So You Think, and of course Whitney and Lindsay moving on to Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, I don't know what's in the water, but it's a lot of
There's
talent.
something.
There's
There's
something
something.
good. There's something good there. So where should I go next on this? Because I want to ask, because you are from Utah, you are Mormon, you are married.
I am
Congratulations.
married.
Are you still a newlywed? Or are you just
We're
past that?
approaching a year,
Oh.
so I don't know how long a newlywed is, but yeah, we're
A
approaching a year.
newlywed is a year. So
Year.
yes, I got married. I must have been married about 6 months before you. So yeah, you lose that like oh, I'm not a newlywed anymore.
Yeah.
It's fun to say you're a newlywed.
Yeah, it is fun.
I really want to ask this because I think it's really important. And there's so many people out there where faith is so important to them.
Yeah.
You live in LA. We're going through a lot here in the entertainment industry with just lots of news of, sexual harassment and,
Yeah.
sexual assault and things like that. And we're constantly surrounded by excess in Los Angeles. How is it important to you? How do you stay true to who you are? Because I think in this town, the more you live authentically,
Yeah.
the more you'll stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
And it's something that I really believe. But how is it working for you and your husband? Because I think it's so important.
Yeah. It's honestly been a lifesaver, because there's so many opportunities and so many directions you can take this industry. And so if we can find like where our roots are, that kind of establishes a path for us, It's something that we've been taught and we've been raised with, and it's become who I am, and it's a part of me. So it's definitely been difficult in times of I feel like I don't get as many opportunities, or I limit myself in jobs that I choose to take and I don't choose to take, but it's ultimately my decision.
Right.
And I'm grateful for that. And I'm learning that I am taking a different path than other people, and that's okay, And I'm really grateful for that.
Well, you'll be happy in the long run, too,
Yeah,
that you stay
'cause then
true to
you
who
stay
you are.
fulfilled to who you are.
Absolutely.
And you end up doing things that you truly love.
Is there any type of job that you think is just not for you, or is there any type of like tones or themes or anything like that you just think is not right for you in the dance world?
I mean, things that require more travel. Now that I'm married, I want to stay closer to my husband if possible, but he's really supportive in allowing me to go and do things. So shorter tours, I'm doing one in a little bit, is totally worth it.
Yep.
And then just like finding things that I feel like I'm appropriately dressed, and that I feel like what the underlying feel of it all is just positive. If it's appropriate, if it's wholesome, if it makes people happy.
No, and it's really good because especially young dancers, so many people move here at 17, 18. It is easy to get swayed and think like, if I don't get this job, I have to do this. And
Right. I have to do this to get this.
Right, or I have to dress this way, or this is the costume, and learning to be fearless and saying no, which we know, especially as women, is
Right,
hard
yeah.
sometimes. But sometimes making that difficult decision, especially since we're hearing situations that have been challenging the industry for women and for men. But I think the more we stick to what our gut and core
Yeah.
instincts are, the better off we
Yeah.
are.
And I think it helps other people. If they see you do that, then they're more willing themselves to do it.
Absolutely.
Because I'm sure there's situations where other people want to say the same thing you do, but they're too scared. But then if they see you, then they'll stand next to you and say it as well.
Yeah, and I think, safety in numbers, people. Think
Yeah,
about that. And support
exactly.
each other, have each other's back. And I think the more we talk about all of these stories that are happening, because I get phone calls from everyone, they're like, oh my gosh, Hollywood is like a den of like sin. And I'm like, I get it, but these situations are going on in other industries too. So
You just have to sort it out, you know?
sort it out, have each other's back. And
Exactly.
that's what we're talking about.
Exactly.
But thank you for talking about that, because I think that, sometimes people don't like to talk about their faith, I think, that
Right.
much. And I think that in this crazy world, it's really important. And I think people should feel free to be who they are.
No, I love it. You know, it's who I am, and I wear it, and that's what's made me me.
That's
you
good,
know?
though. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks.
Now, I caught you on the set of Kristen McQuaid's up
Yes.
on a rooftop
Yes.
earlier this year.
Yes.
It was like a So You Think You Can Dance reunion that day.
Yeah, we were
There's
all
the
there.
drone. This is one of my favorite shots, honestly.
Yeah.
Haley
That
is
was
up
so
there.
fun.
Valerie's in there. Will's in there. I think Moses was there.
Yeah.
It was a really good
So
day.
fun.
And this was the first one with Grace Vanderwaal. There's you and Moses, right?
Yep.
This was Light the Sky. And then you just recently did her Moonlight video as well.
Yes. Yes, I did. It was so fun. Mm-hmm.
What's it like working with Kristen? We had her here in studio a few weeks ago.
She's so fun. She's so fun.
She's so quirky.
I love her personality. Yeah. And so like being on set with her it's not treacherous. It's you're having a party as you're dancing, but she's very efficient as well, which I find that sometimes that's hard to have a balance of fun and like getting the job done, and she does an excellent job of that. And it's fun for me because those were the first couple times I've worked with her. I knew her through Haley, and
Kristen, just to remind you guys, Kristen's done a lot of solos for Haley.
Yeah.
She did them for So You Think,
So You
and
Think.
things like that. Yeah, so
it's been fun to build that connection with her.
I didn't know, because I was like, did you know her through conventions? Because a few people, like Kayla
Yeah.
Radomski, has known
Yeah.
Kristen McQuaid for a long time.
Yeah,
and
no.
Haley.
This is a new friendship.
I love this. Well, I know that you're doing choreography yourself, and I've got to imagine, like, when you're working with choreographers, you're probably taking mental notes a lot, especially if you're a student. I know you're like,
Yes.
you have the list going
Yes.
right in the back of your head. What do you like when you work with a choreographer? Do you like that efficiency? Do you like...
Yes. Yeah, I've recently started assisting a lot. I assisted with Travis and Chris Scott on this last season of So You Think, and
No big deal.
it was fun.
Travis Wall, like
No.
2 Emmys. No, but that's amazing.
Yes,
I mean,
so
you
cool.
must have learned so much from
Yeah,
him.
it's fun, and it's I love it because every choreographer does it differently, and everybody has a different process. So I've assisted Joey growing up. I assisted Andrew Winghart with a project before, and it's fun to see how they do things that work for them. And as a choreographer myself, I learn what things work for me and what I like that they do, and kind of implement it into my process.
How about demeanor? Because I always found, like, certain teachers you loved and you love the reinforcement you get, and other teachers are like a little bit more strict, and choreographers are like that too. Everyone has a different way of communicating. Do you have a way that you like to communicate as a choreographer? Like, have you gone, this is what I want to do?
I would say I'm definitely, as a choreographer, I'm hard on the kids or the dancers that I'm working on, but I teach kids a lot too in convention world. You be their best friend first, but then you're hard on them.
You're
so
like,
that's
straighten that leg.
yeah, exactly. And I think that gets the job done, you know?
That's awesome. And what I love, and I was asking you, I'm like, are you going to the tour tomorrow night? Because it is here at the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles
Yes,
tomorrow.
it is.
But you are busy.
Yes.
And this is a good thing. And if you guys want to learn more about Club Jeté, I did an article on Tiffany Billings about a month ago, and it is on the dancenetwork.tv site, so go and check that out. You can find it under our Dance Blogs tab. But you are participating tomorrow night.
Yes, I am. I'm performing a duet with my friend from college, from Pace University. Her name's Madison Maniff, and we're doing a duet that we choreographed together. And so this is my first time performing at Jeté, performing my own work.
And I love this, because I love it when I see dancers, like, branching out, because there are so many opportunities in the dance world, and I think especially now we're seeing such a massive explosion in growth, and I love seeing people sort of like, really growing with their creativity and things like that. What made you decide to utilize Club Jeté? Because there's other things, there's Choreographers Carnival out here, there's different other venues, but what stood out to you about Club Jeté?
I love that it's an intimate environment, and the energy. So because it's so intimate, the energy there is really supportive. And we're both small, mighty dancers, and it's a small stage.
It's perfect.
So it works, and we're excited to like test the limits on what we can do on such a small stage, and yeah.
And Club Jeté has been kind of the launching pad for a lot of choreographers.
Yeah, it's kind of like a great place to start of where you can go on to do other things.
Yeah, and I will tell you, when I went to the, let's see, we're in what, November? So I went to maybe their September one, I think, and it was packed.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy. You're in this West Hollywood club. Everyone's like surrounding the stage, and everyone is there like holding up their phone, recording. It's amazing.
And everyone's there because they love dance, and
Yes.
that's the best part is everyone's there because they support dance and they want to be there.
And so literally tomorrow night, everyone's either at Club Jeté or they're at the Dolby Theater. So if you're wondering where all the dancers are in Los Angeles,
That's where.
That's where. Where do you see your choreography going? Do you have like an idea? Like, would you want to do more concert dance, commercial dance? Like, have you thought that far in advance?
I've thought about it. I'm kind of willing to take it any direction. I would say more commercially, and I also, like I said, I love working with kids. Mm-hmm. So and with sports psychology, I want to be in the beginning stages of choreography with kids and teaching them.
And I think for kids too, there's so much pressure, especially the ones that are, they're 9 years old and they have 100,000
yes
Instagram followers.
Oh, yes.
And I mean, every day is Tilt Tuesday. And it's like, but I worry, and maybe some thoughts, since you're a budding sports psychologist, I worry about burnout for a lot of these kids very, very early because the pressure is already there. Because I was obviously dancing young and professionally, but there wasn't this pressure of social media and followers and, having people know you. Mm-hmm. Do you worry about that? Do you see it happening at all?
Yeah, I totally do. And I can feel it in myself sometimes, of the pressure of social media and, am I good enough or am I presenting myself on this platform well enough and all of that. And so sometimes you just have to close social media for a second so you can evaluate yourself and, okay, am I still doing the things that I love or am I just doing it so everybody knows that I love it, Mm-hmm. And so I think you have to remind kids that, and you have to remind them, I think you have to be aware of how they're thinking when they're on social media and how they're presenting themselves, of just like how they are mentally. If they're okay, then go for it,
Right, as long as they're enjoying it and things like that. I guess I just, I sit there and I think, did we create, like, by doing season 13 of, Next Generation, did we create, and Dance Moms as well, obviously, did we create this entire generation of, like, dancers that have to be famous by the time they're 15, 14, and things like that. Although I will say that the Dance Mom kids have all represented themselves very well. Yeah. Which is good news considering, that was a tough environment. Even though some of it was character driven as a reality show, at the same it is. I can go on and on about Abby Lee Miller for days because I know the private side of her and I know the public side of her, and they're two totally different things.
Right,
so I always have very mixed emotions about it because I had those tough dance teachers too growing up that I'm like, was that healthy? I'm not sure. Yeah, so it's a total balance. But I do worry that some of these kids are going to be like, I'm 14 and I don't want to dance anymore because it's just been this stress.
Too much,
It's been too much too soon.
Yeah.
All right, well, I always like to ask this one final question of people.
Okay.
Yes. In 5 years, Alexa will be?
Ooh. I will still be dancing. I always want dancing to be a part of me. I think it will change how and where and what. I really want to go into sports psychology and, like I mentioned, teach kids mentally and physically in their process of dance, and helping the next generation and all of that, and myself still dancing.
All right. Well, we will see in 5 years.
Yeah.
We'll come back and visit.
Come back
and visit and see what happens. And I will have like an even bigger like montage of photos. I will send you these so you have them all,
I want
because
them.
it literally is
Look
like.
at that. Oh my gosh.
I know. With Comfort, I didn't even remember Comfort being in studio that day, and I was like, we had Comfort and Alexa the same day. It's kind of random, but obviously it was very fun, and I know we're gonna send all of those to you.
Fun. Yes.
So you can have all of them. But thank you so much. Let us know where everyone can find you online, Instagram, and all that good stuff.
Yes. Okay. So Instagram is Alexia Meyer, spelled Alexia Meyer, and Twitter is Alexa_Meyer.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us and joining us last minute.
Yes, of
It
course.
is so
Thanks
appreciated
for having
you
me.
saved this show today. And I'm glad we caught up since I am officially jealous about Clara. All right, you guys, come and join us next week before Thanksgiving because we're going to have 3 members of the Emmy Award-winning Quest crew. I'm so excited about
fun.
this one. And of course, if you want to check out all of the latest dance news, be sure to check out dancenetwork.tv. I'm Kristyn Burtt for To The Point. We will see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.